leave my baby alone. And you get it. Be a real father. Because I did not have a father, I had uncles. I had cousins. I had a church that had something called a brotherhood where I would learn what men are supposed to act like. Men are supposed to do. Don't give an excuse for your sons growing up without a father figure when you got a church that you can go show them what a father figure is supposed to be like. There's organizations out there will help you.
That's right.
And you won't do it because you're busy just trying to make ends meet. You better make time for that boy. Because you will later on when you're bailing him out.
Right.
We can do better. Where are you?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I can talk on this subject for an hour, but I won't. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to time myself. And the reason why I'm going to do that, because this topic is something I talk about every day with the young people. I talk about it, and sometimes I hurt people's feelings. Sometimes I hurt my own family's feelings when I talk about this. See, I was raised without a father. My mom raised 6 of us without a father. What I had in my life was father figures. I had people I looked up to, and I had people I highly respected. So when I became a man, I knew who to be and what not to be, because I paid attention to great fatherhood. And I'm not talking about the Leave It to Beavers or the Warren Cleavers, the Cosby Show, but I had men in my life who were real men, who taught us to be tough when we need to be tough. And so I brought that back to my home, and I had these conversations with, I learned how to be the man, and I had a conversation with my daughter, I have 1 child, 3 grandchildren. Every now and then, me and my daughter, we butt heads, boy. She's a good lady, and she's a great mother. Sometimes I want to tweak her motherhood from outside of my home into her home, but I know I can't do that as much as I want to. Raise your children in the church. I remember years ago, and everybody that's in this room probably know what I'm talking about, when Charles Barkley said, "I'm not a role model." He couldn't have been more wrong. Whether you're a role model, a good role model, a bad role model, you're a role model. Because the world is looking at you. The people who look like you are looking at you. And they're going to mimic you. Again, because you're making money and have a talent, doesn't mean that you are doing good for others. People listen to what you say. They look at what you do. Again, correct your children when they are wrong. Correct them. Tough words, tough discipline. When I was a kid, we got into fights. We never thought of trying to shoot and kill another person. We even rolled like we thought we were gangs because we were like the Royal Palm group.
Yeah.
But we didn't go and try to shoot and kill anybody. We played sports against them and then we fought. Right?
That's right. Sure.
See each other the next day, we fought, and we never thought about somebody doing a drive-by shooting on us. Those boys that's doing this, I don't care if they're 30, 40 years old, they're boys. Grow up. Teach them how to be responsible men. You're gonna lose a fight every now and then, and you don't have to try to kill a person and wish them dead. Let's stop this. Raise your children to be respectable and to respect the sanctuary of life and other people. And don't be afraid to step outside of your home and talk to your neighbor's kid or someone else's kid who you think that you can help bring them along. We have some groups in my fraternity, and Brother Wilcox down here knows what I'm talking about, Men of Tomorrow. What we do, we teach the young boys how to be respectable men. Look around this room here. You got a lot of beautiful women. Fellas, pick one. Treat that one. That's it. You can't have them all. That's what my dad thought. He thought he could have them all. You can't have them all. Pick one. Stay with that one. My wife and I are going on 32 years, 32, maybe 33 years. No, don't play. Feel sorry for me.
I love you, man. I love you. I love you. I'm getting ready to do 40.
Listen, she feed me 3 times a day. She let me go out and play. She's the CEO of the house. I'm the president.
There you go.
That's the way it is. However, what I say, we bounce everything off one another. It ain't my way or the highway. And I'm not afraid to tell you, most times she's right. And she better figure out how to make it seem like it was my idea if it wasn't. But most times she's right. And I have to take her advice. I take her advice. Have that partner for life. Teach your children how to have partners for life. And don't be afraid to talk to them about real issues in this world. Now, I don't want to bring politics in. My time is almost up, but I'm going to keep going for 1 second. We can't keep allowing politicians to tell us what's wrong with the black family. Brother Wilcox, you said that. We got to stop saying, wait a minute. You ain't never been black a day in your life, and you're going to tell me what's wrong with the black community? How we should vote? And if you're listening to people, and I'm not telling any of you how to vote, but if you listen to Herschel Walker, Marjorie Taylor Greene, those kind of people, you listen to wrong advice. You are. Those people do not have the best interest of our community, or people look like you and I. Teach your kids. The first thing I tell any young person, when they turn 18, what are you going to do? I'm going to get registered to vote, and you're going to exercise your vote. And I don't need to tell you how to vote if you're paying attention to what's going on around us. You know how to vote, and you're going to get 10 or 20 more to vote. My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, man, we have something here that is magnanimous, that is just growing inside this room. Let's just give a round of applause to all the brothers so far. Now let me ask you, you out there in TV land, you out here in this crowd, when you think about how you grew up, when you think about the man in your life, when you think about your father, your grandfather, when you think about all of those things and the role that they played in your life, how many of us, you see this theme here, my papa was a Rolling Stone. Let me tell you, Ricky got me by one. My father had 21 children, and I am the only offspring of my mother and my father. Right? And he had 21. So that seems to be kind of like a common theme among some folks. But look at us now. Look at us now. That was the theme. So here we are. I'm thinking back, and I look back just like they did in the African diaspora, and they talked about the kufu bird that looks back, and then we're also going to be looking forward. We have to look forward and say, look, we got to learn from what happened, and then we stand on the shoulders of those giants that my grandfather and my grandmother were together for 64 years. 64 years. All right? And so, absolutely, we got to show up. The black man has to show up. He has to be involved. He has to be there. And so many things that these gentlemen have said about being there and listening. I think about how the challenges that I've even gone through right here today, up to this moment with my own child. One of the things is that sometimes the children are a little different. Like we say, they don't go outside and play. They don't wait till the street lights are on and then come in. They inside playing video games and things like that. So it's a little different now. But I tell you one thing, they have a totally different mindset. So we have to be on the scene, and we have to be involved in a lot, and we have to listen. But let me tell you also, they shut us out. They'll stop talking to you. So what do you do when they stop talking to you? You know, the thing is, you have to be there. You have to be involved. You have to be engaged. And sooner or later, they'll come around to you, hopefully. But let me tell you, I have always strove in my life to be the best that I could be each and every day. And that's the mentality that you have to have, is that, hey, I woke up this morning, I'm blessed. And then I look around and I say, how can I share the blessings that have come to me and pass them on to my community, to my family, to my child? You truly do have to be a role model. Now, you don't have to be a president of the United States or anything like that. All you have to be is the best that you can be each and every day, and show up. All you have to be is there. All you have to be is try your best. And that's not that hard to do. I mean, there are many challenges that face us. I'm going to keep it real. There's all kinds of challenges that face us. We have to teach them how to act when you come in contact with 99. Y'all know what 99 is, right? When y'all come in contact with the police. You have to teach them how to act. Because, and let me tell you something too. I remember when I was a child driving along the beach, and you weren't supposed to be looking at the white women on the beach. And my grandfather would tell me, look the other way. You know, because those are the types of things that they had to teach us for our survival. And so we have to learn survival skills here in America, ladies and gentlemen. And so I want to make sure then that I can be the best person that I can be each and every day. And I want to show my love for my fellow man, my love for my child, my love for my friends, my love for my family, my love for my God. Because I want you all to understand it's all about love. It's all about how we treat one another with love and respect. And so, yes, I am a role model. You have to have something, some kind of a vision that you can put forward. So I can't imagine, you know, when I was a little boy, I imagined being the first black president. Somebody beat me to that. But also, I imagine being a businessman. I imagine doing things, and I used to drive and I see those big high rises and I say, well, every window up there, that represents $1 million. I want to own one of them. And so you have to aspire to be something. You have to aspire for change. You have to picture change in your mind and then work those steps to go from A1 to A2 to A3 to B, to B1 to B2 to B3. And then sometimes, you know how we are, we can just magically create things to go from A to Z in a heartbeat. So we do have a lot of innate talent. Excellence is inside of you. And you have to be excellent. You have to be excellent and teach excellence in your household, as well as in your community, as well as in yourself. You have to understand that sometimes you might take some licks, but then again, the sun still shines the next day. The sun rises in the morning. And so you can go and get them again. But there are many, many things that follow you along your life. You know, let me tell you something. You know, I got caught with possession of a narcotic. I did not have the narcotic. I thought it was planted on me. But that follows me even now today. So we get locked out. We don't get locked up all the time. We get locked out sometimes. So you have to teach these things, so that these things don't happen to the folks that come behind you. You have to look behind and you have to look forward. And so what I'm saying to you is this, is that change begins as a state of mind. Change You have to envision this future. And so we have to have a lot of imagination to overcome all of this. And so that's really is kind of the purpose of all of this thing here today, is that we, these talented 10 individuals, can sit down and identify some of the challenges that are going on in our communities. And we, today, are gonna start a path towards solution to these problems, because we have to come up with what's working for other folks is not working for us. So we have to recreate, we have to construct something totally new for us. And so that's what I think our role is to construct a new beginning here today, not yesterday, but right now, today.
Thank you.
To get information. And if you haven't gotten it from these brothers and ours on both sides, then you're wasting your time, even those that are watching on TV. The bottom line is, this calls for action, and action makes the difference. I can tell stories. I'm laughing because I thought this brother was in my house, because that's what my son says to me. You know, I'm not your, he told me, I'm his dad. He told me, he said, Daddy, you're my dad, not my friend. So my son learned at an early age, but that was because of the village child. But again, I'm gonna give you your time back, because I think it's important that you take time to meditate on what has been said. Right. Everyone has been affected by what has been said. The question is, what are you going to do with what has been said? We're going to give you some solutions, but I'm willing to bet that every one of you here, and those that are watching, are smart enough to know what the solutions are. Yeah. We may just want to reinforce it for you, but overall, no, you guys know what's going on. You see our communities. You know the difference. Yes, I raised my home God-fearing. You walk in my house, it says that sign. For me and my house will serve the Lord. We understand that. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. But guess what? Scriptures, unless put to work, is dead. So I can give you all the Bible you need and all. No, guess what? You got to apply it. You got to make a difference. Each one of these men here, yeah, we have been what you might feel as successful, but really when you look deep down, what makes us that is our families. I've been around, I understand that, and I respect the women that are around me. But it's important to understand that you respect yourselves, okay? And make it easier. With that, I'm dropping the mic and giving it to Mike.
What I think, first of all, I'm in total agreement with what the other men have said, and I believe that our job is to be role models and to train the next generation. I also would like to, in addition to what they were saying, I want to look at it from another angle, because most of them talked about their daddies as being a rolling stone and things of this nature. My father was a minister. My mother was a minister. But I had older cousins that were from the hood. And I listened to them before I listened to my father. And they taught me, I listened to them and they taught me how to be a man now. But they didn't teach me correctly. I was told that you needed to be tough, that a man needed to be hard to survive. But also what they were saying is that I needed to be tough and be hard-hearted and not allow anything to touch my heart. And I also was taught that the man is in charge. And that meant that I tell you what to do and you do it. And that's it.
His wife is
No
over there looking
discussion.
like, until he met me. I see you.
And so what I'm saying, they have to be taught right, because it's not just being in the home. You could be in the home with the wrong information. I had the right upbringing, but it didn't go to heart. And when I had to learn this, because the world told me that you're in charge of the finances. And that is so foolish if my wife has a degree in finance. And I can't even balance my checkbook.
But you're in charge.
Yeah. So I had to be taught to do what works in my house. If I could cook better than my wife, because I was told in the streets that when you go home, your wife needs to have your food cooked. But if I'm the best cook, you see, what I'm saying is that you need to be taught right. And what works in your house may not work in my house. You apply what works in your house. And it doesn't make you a man or less of a man. It's what works in your house. It's the gift that God has given your wife, or the gift that, and we're going back to the synergy. And how that comes together to make that household work. Because you'll have men or women coming in and say, you shouldn't be doing it. You don't know what works in my house. So we have to teach them, and teach them right, and give them the right information to make things work in your house.
I don't know how you're going to come after that one.
Can I get the pastor the mic again? Yeah, let me pass the plate. Wow, what works in a household? What role do we play in the community? As I stated before, I started a foundation called Forward Love, because in the household, my father was saying he's never been the man. It's always been my mother. He's just the back. He just backing her up most of the time, because I've never got a whooping from my father, but my mother used to whoop us on a regular. And my mother used to say that make sure you get a college degree, but more importantly, make sure your brother get his master's or his doctorate degree. I don't have my master or doctorate degree. My brother and my sister has that. So I did my part. So that's why I was like, Forward Love. In terms of the community aspect of it, I do coach a Little League football as a cornerback coach. Also, I do what they do, big brother, little brother. I teach them how to dress, how to tie a tie, how to do a bow tie. I've never been married, so in terms, the question being asked in the household, how are you supposed to be as the man? I've been my own man, my own household, but I've never had a wife or to know what it's like to be a husband, because I heard some of the things some of these gentlemen said, which is greatly profound, but when you look at a situation like that, what do you do? In the household, I've always said be disciplined. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
So, I'm a child of, I guess, the 80s. I'm 47. And I grew up mostly raised by women. My mother was, I never met my father. My mother was part of the crack cocaine epidemic in the 80s. And so I was raised by my grandmother until she died when I was 12. And all of my friends in our neighborhood in Coconut Grove were in the same situation. So we didn't have black male role models, like women. And that followed us through school. But then there were organizations out there, like Men of Tomorrow, by the way. I was Men of Tomorrow. That kind of guided us. You know, in the 90s, you had the Million Man March in Washington, D.C., where you had this collectiveness of men coming together to, you know, steer the ship. I think that's what's lost again. I think we are doing better. I think people from our generation and the generation before learned from their fathers. I think we are better fathers today than we were yesterday. I look around Publix or Costco, and I see young black men with their families. I see it. I tried to see if I could look up the statistics really quick to see if it's gotten better. I think it has from what I found, but you can see it. But again, there's no community collectiveness about what we do about black male leadership in the community and in the household. So I know that, you know, you do your part. Everybody up here does their part, I'm sure. But there's no movement. There's no collective movement like there was in the 90s with the Million Man March, where we all came together to, you know, steer the ship in the right direction. So I think that's what's missing, and I think we need to get back there.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna keep this short and close this out. I'm not. You'd be in for it if I stood up. So as I think about this, when I think about the role of black men in the family as well as in the community, I say history. And when I first wrote this down, I say history destroyed. And then my mind said, no, damage. It didn't destroy, it damaged the black man in the family. And so when we think about that, we think about slavery, what slavery did to us. We can't forget that. We think about Jim Crow era, free but not free. We think about the prison system. So how the prison system has penetrated itself into our family. And so when you're asking people to try to do what a system itself has broken down, and that is our system here in the United States, it becomes a big challenge. Now, I listened to my esteemed folks here on the dais. My mom and dad were together for 60-something years, 67 if I'm correct, and right there, right across the street from Oswald Park. My parents had 5 kids. I'm the last of those 5, and my father put down some rules that were just there. I had someone at work in Michigan say, "So you call your father father?" I said, "Absolutely, because he earned that title." My siblings don't call him father, but I started calling him father because I was like, look at what this man has done. A man that was ran out of Georgia, so left his wife with 3 kids, put on a bus coming south. When my oldest brother came, they got to, they caught one bus to Brunswick, got on the bus in Brunswick, and that's where Ahmaud, the young man, was killed in Brunswick. So that town, think about that town back in the 50s. My father had to ride that bus from Brunswick, change bus in Jacksonville, holding my oldest brother the whole ride. As the story was told, a white woman said, "Give me that boy." And she held my brother for a while, but he stood up that whole ride. So you think about where we came and how that's impacted what we are as a family. Couple little points I want to throw out there. So as I think about how we react, it's important to understand that sometimes we react the way because of just what we've been taught. So as a med student in Kansas, I used to say to the doc, "Well, doc, if these folks," so I'm a med student, "got hypertension, why don't we, we got to tell them to stop eating this pork shoulder." And the doc told me, "If that's all grandma got to feed the family, you have no right to tell her not to eat that pork shoulder." We'll give her some medicine, we'll do what we gotta do to take care of that hypertension and move her forth, but she gotta take care of that whole family. All right, destruction of the system again, so that's grandma raising her kids and now the grandkids. So I saw that out in Kansas City. All right, so then let me take you a little bit further. I came back here after college and I taught at Ely for a while. First day teaching at Ely, my dad said, "You leaving this house without a towel?" I was like, "Yes, sir." "No, you're not." "Boy, put a towel on." You got people looking at you. And so you're one of the ones who made it to the next step. You show them the right way. All right? That stuck for a while. So then, med school. Once I got to med school, and Dr. Miriam has joined me at these conferences, so I work with the Student National Medical Association. I've recruited approximately a little bit over 300 students, most of color, towards med school. So in doing this, my father again came back and said, somebody helped you along the way, you give it back. And as you give it back, they don't owe you anything. You just give it and know that this is how we start to effectively make change. So we think about our house and what is our role in our house. We've been strong as a people. That's the excellence for us to make it through, to be able to sit on this dais. That's because we walked on the back of someone else and their excellence, and they continuously provide their strength. And we're going to provide the strength for the next group as they move forward. So I'm going to close out on that one.
Okay, thank you. Let's give our distinguished guests panelists. We're going to stop here and convene in about 15, 20 minutes. Is that okay? And then we'll come back. And I like that word, collective movement. We're going to talk about the collective movement, and we're going to have questions from the audience. Thank you. Okay, great. Greetings and welcome back to part 2 of Black Diamond MMOB experience. And so we will convene now with more questions pertaining to collectively, how do we move? We have, somebody mentioned Piney Grove, and we have Mount Olive. We have like churches on every corner of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but we have issues with our criminal justice system, with our juvenile justice system, with education, with literacy. What are we doing, and how do we collectively move any agenda? Where are the alphas? Where are the kappas? Imagine if they all came together and sat in a juvenile justice courtroom, or if they all came together and sat at a board, in a boardroom at the school board. What kind of change or what message we could send. So how do we collectively come out of the four walls of our church, of our sorority, fraternity, and make a difference? How do we do that? We'll start with you, sir, Mr. Wilcox.
I think what we really done. There's no microphone.
There you go. I got you, man.
Okay. And also, since you are a federal lawyer, are there any laws or any things that we could do together collectively to create a law around this agenda, or this storyline that we're talking about regarding the black family and the role of the black man in the family? You mentioned earlier about black men staying in the home or staying with the women that they're having children with. You know, could those things be made into laws?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think the Constitution would allow any legislature or the federal government to
Make someone
somebody stay
right, we know that, but
with the woman, or to make a father stay in the home. However, I do think there are things we can do as leaders. certainly we can become more involved in churches, with our churches, or regardless of your denomination or your faith. I think we need to start, that's a good starting place. I think we need to strengthen, as I mentioned before, our educational system. We need to try to get more African American men in the classroom. I think we certainly need to try to do something to encourage African American men to go into the education field. If it's not increasing the salary, which I do believe needs to be done, we can certainly maybe come up with some kind of housing voucher. You teach in this area, you know, your housing won't be expensive. We can give you some kind of discount on a home or something. We gotta start thinking out of the box to really start getting men in the communities and in the schools. I want to say that with the solution, I want to go back to the collectiveness, the idea of the collective. We really need to have all the groups, fraternities and groups like 100 Black Men, probably to come up with a common agenda. A common agenda to get the Black men more involved in the community, more involved in getting out the vote, and more involved in developing young men and developing the character of young men. I can tell you that as a criminal defense attorney for over 30 years, I've seen brilliant young men doing crime. I mean, guys that set up whole organizations. Back when they were, back when I early started, it was crack. And these, some of these guys that were selling crack had extensive organizations where, you know, hierarchy and a way to distribute the money, and you just can't be dumb and do that. And now, then after the crack went away, it was they're doing the fraud now. The identity theft and the bank fraud. And you can't be dumb and make that work. I mean, they get caught, but a lot of these guys have amassed a great deal of money doing these things that if they could direct that energy into something that was legal and something that was part of for the community, there's no limit as to what they can accomplish if they were just directed into if they were directed correctly, if they were just guided in the right direction. So I would say, just to reiterate one more time, that we can get all these major Black groups, these men's groups at the church, these fraternities, these lodges, to come up with an agenda, just a basic agenda as to how we can direct the young men into being responsible and developing their character. That's what we need to be looking at.
Thank you.
What really stood out and stands out is doing something different. Like a few years ago, everybody boarded the bus, you know, they headed to Washington, right? The Million Man March. Million Man March. I just look at from the railroad by where the freeze at, right? All the way to the railroad down there where Betty's. You know, and to step outside the box and be creative, like they say, all males on one side. This is what I visualize. All females, oh, I got to take this with me. All females on the other side. And it's doing something different. Somebody got to think of something different. You know, we do all this talking, we have all these meetings, but when you ride down Sistrum, the man's still doing what he planned to do. I'm just giving it to you real. We got all these powerful brothers, we got all these powerful athletes from Broward County, but when I ride, all I do is just walk down 6th Front. They had a plan from the 80s, and they are implementing. They're gonna move the ones don't know how to act back over here to 31st somewhere, because that's gonna be like what? Los Oaks. Why we can't do something different? That's how they make money, doing something different, you know, exciting people. So we still work at it. We still work at it. We still work at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, when we start talking about creating solutions and putting together agendas to solve certain issues or problems, it starts with the unity within our community. First, agreeing to come together and address the issues. As you guys have amassed this great panel as it is today, this is really where it starts. Secondly, we have to identify what is it we're really trying to accomplish. And for me, it starts with just the unification of us coming together and saying that we're really willing to work together to address these issues consistently. You know, yeah, it starts sometimes where people will say, I'm in, but 3-4 weeks down the road, a month down the road, you know, nobody's there. But this is something that we really need to focus on, especially here locally. I think everything starts here at the grassroots basis. And I know there are things that we can accomplish here, especially if you love this community, especially if you're invested in this community, you own property in this community. There are things that we can do. And, but first we have to get ourselves together. We really do. And I think this is a great start. This is truly a great start. But I'm actually interested to hear what other panelists have to say, because there's so many obstacles that we're facing. If we can all agree to continue this conversation and continue this movement, I think we can make some great strides.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. First thing we'd have to do is form some type of entity that will agree to meet every month, come rain or shine, to at least push this effort forward, whatever we come up with. Because without that, it's just like he said, we'll be running like gangbusters the first 2 months and then it'll disappear. So we have to have people that we're going to make sure that those specific people, like the 10 people up here, that's going to commit at least once a month to get together and say, okay, what is going to be our target of this month? What do we need to get done to make this happen on this particular issue? I think we need to spearhead cities and different organizations that should be, notice I said should be,
Right.
interested in what we're trying to accomplish. One of the, and it should be publicized eventually, because one of the things a city or a county does not want is for someone to be doing something and trying to do something positive, and they were asked to participate,
Right.
and they did not.
Absolutely. Thank
So,
you.
correct me for shaming them.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That was a plug. Thank you.
But I'm telling you now, that city or that county or that organization that always talking about they're going to help somebody. But when you came to help them, they did not.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're going to need a certain type of advertisements put out. And, you know, the community will surprise you. You got to put something out in the community saying, this is something for you.
Right.
And don't start so big that it just goes away. You start in this section. And as we go through, you'll pick up some people that really wanted to do it. I was, once a part of what was called the Citywide Ushers Union. We used to meet every month at a different church, and it was 10 churches in that union. So we got to go from church to church to church, and as we did that, we took up dues, and we discussed things, and we had a little church. But by going from one church to another, we got to experience that church. We got to have service with that. We meet on that Friday, but that Sunday, we do a church thing in the afternoon. So when you do stuff like that, you make people want to be a part of it. You must be appealing to people at the beginning. If you're not appealing, your purpose will never come across because it'll die out. So you must do activities that appeal to what you need to get done sometimes. If you want the kids to be a part of it, then you have to do activities that they want, not do activities that you think they want. You ask them. You have to do things that that community says, yeah, we need some of that. But the biggest thing I'm pushing here is that city, that county, push them and say, we need funding, because the funding is really going to be a big deal. You can't have dreams and no funding. It's just not going to work.
Thank you. Chief, before you begin, what is the problem with commitment? Why is our commitment challenging excellence? What is going on? Why we are not as committed as we were back in the day? This generation, what's going on with commitment?
A number of things happen, Dr. Lisa, an excellent question, first of all. A number of things happen, some for the good and end up being not for the good. When we started talking about it, when we got into integration, and first of all, let me say this. I'm not knocking integration. I don't want people to say, oh, he's opposed to integration. However, when we were segregated, we gave us a reason to be together and bond. We were in the same church, same community.
Sense of identity.
We had a sense of identity.
Definitely.
So I'm not saying integration. I don't want anybody to misquote me. Right. Integration is a bad thing. We got to have friends across the aisle.
Right.
So so once we got dispersed, now we had a group. I remember going back in the 90s, there was a whole group of guys and girls, ladies around town called themselves the Black Republican Coalition. You guys had it in your communities also. Everybody had it. And that was a kind of the first eye-opener to say that we're starting to separate in our ideology on how we think. You know, because what used to be important to our community and me is no longer important to us or to me. So I would love to see us get together, get back to what is the common problem that's damaging our neighborhoods, that's damaging our people. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to digress a little bit. I'm going to say art imitate life. So when you have musicians, lyrics talking about gang banging, drug dealing, and all type of derogatory language towards women and youth, that's their art. And it has came over to life. When we used to have Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Commodores and the Jacksons get on stage in suits. Now you want to get on stage with your pants hanging down, no shirt, what we call wife beaters. That you taking pride on dumbing yourself down, and the art of that is what we see in our community now. That's the life. So we're looking, our young people are looking up way too much to the models that's not necessarily role models, but that's, well, not good role models anyway, but those are the things that's plaguing our community. Now, if we get back to what you're saying, if we get to saying, we got so many good groups in every Black community. You have the National Panhellenic, the church groups, NAACP, the 100, and I can name a whole bunch more. Really good groups who are doing good things. But if we can't reach the people who are 20 years old and younger, or the people who out there, I don't want to say thugging out, but not doing the best things. If we can't reach them, we're kind of failing a little bit on what our message should be. We should have this room filled up. Now, this is a great thing that you're doing, Dr. Lisa. I love it. And I'll be a part of it anytime you want me to, however you want to be a part of it. But if I can't reach the young people to come here, or the people who are not, I'm saying we're failing. And we got to get back to that thinking of how we grew up before we were integrated. We used to have the black churches, the black community. We got to get back to that thinking and start saying what's going to make our community and our people better. And sometimes to bring them in, you have to, in a sense, listen to them more. You got to listen to them why they think the way they think. And we don't always have the answer because we're older. So we have to listen to them. Why do they think the way they think? And then we can probably tell them our experience and our parents' experience. And again, that's just my philosophy, my thoughts, and I don't have the answer on all this.
Thank you for that. We actually went to our alumni, presented this to over 60 students that needed community service hours, and only one showed up. So there is a breakdown in communication. There is an issue. But Lieutenant Rowland, you're next. We've been talking about this issue, our music, when NWA and Tupac was derogatory with the B word and all of that. What's changed when? Because it's like tingling brass. The brass says sound. It's just a sound. What can we do to stop this? How can we collectively agree, even if it's agree to disagree, but we're moving forward about changing the way we see ourselves in terms of music, lyrically?
One of the things I really want to bring forth is that we, as a people, have always been achievers. We have always been folks that overcame. We were the kings and queens of yesteryear, in yester ages. And we were the educators, the library in Alexandria. We were talking about, you and I were talking about some of the things that are prevalent as far as who really truly educated the world. It was coming out of the continent in the cradle of Africa where all this education came. Even the Greeks went over to Africa, and they said, they learned things like the great philosopher Plato said, and he got this from Africa, is a man is not properly educated until he knows how to read, write, and swim. And swimming is my area of expertise. And so one of the things I want to do is really identify that for thousands of years, we were the greatest swimmers on the planet. And when you look at the drowning statistics today, when you see who's drowning, here in the state of Florida, there have been 30 drownings, and 16 of those were melanated people that look like you and me. And so that's just atrocious. And that is something that we truly can prevent. And so one of the things that we have done is gotten away from who we truly are. We have to identify that, yes, we are achievers. We are excellence. And we have to identify with that. And our behavior has to mimic the excellence that is within us. It is innate within us. And so one of the mediums that I use the medium of aquatics, whereas I teach you how to swim, and then I show you also how you can move forward, because swimmers are better athletes. I mean, even Muhammad Ali trained in the water. I mean, there's prolific pictures of him boxing in the swimming pool down in Miami. And so if you cross-train, there's a high school, Stranahan High School, where one of my lifeguards that became the swimming team coach as well as the basketball coach. His swim team was the basketball team. That team became state champions for 2 years in a row because of that cross training. And so they became better students, they became better athletes. We had a situation here nationally where we needed a whole bunch of folks in our military, and they need to know how to swim. We would surely be in a very bad state because most of our military do not have the swimming ability that they need to have in the state of an emergency. So if we go by using the guidelines that I have set aside in my program called Swim Central, what we can do is even take that further and apply the classroom in the swimming pool, where you learn how to do things, you learn how to count, you learn how to do addition, you learn how to do geometry, and I have developed a curriculum from preschool all the way to high school where we can actually take that classroom into the swimming pool. And then not only that, we can have those neighborhood youth corps, we can have junior lifeguard programs where then we can guide those kids into these starting careers like firefighters, police officers. All of them have to have swimming ability. And so the other thing too is this. Starting pay for lifeguards here in South Florida in some of our cities, $20 an hour. That beats the heck out of working at McDonald's. And so also, I can also teach you how you can become a swimming instructor, whereas you can start your own business, and I'll show you how to set up your business. I'll show you how you can get insurance for your business. I can show you how then you can achieve excellence. And let's say one person, you charge them $45 for a half-hour swimming lesson. You get 10 people in that class. Now you're making some real money in a half hour. And now imagine the hourly rate that you're making. So all of this institutes change in our behaviors, change into our pocketbooks, and it equates to money. And so we can institute change, and we can show you how to do that right now. And so you can even use your gifts. Lyrically, I wrote some songs concerning water safety with the repetitive aspect of it. And so you can use that music gift that you have towards education, as opposed to telling someone, how many ladies that you slept with, or how many people that you can shoot, or that sort of thing. So I am an advocate of moving things forward and using the medium of aquatics to do that. And so I can truly help you move forward.
Next.
Same question.
Same. Well, we're talking about collective movement. How are we coming out the four walls of anything, and collectively, how is that going to happen? Give us the how.
I think the how is going to happen is when we just say we're going to do it, because once we do it, and I've heard some of the panel talk about that, getting us together. The problem that we have with getting together is what I call TIME. We all find other things to do with our time. I can't get parents to come to PTAs. We got to be able to redirect the energy to help each other. If it means that I got to babysit somebody so that they can go to this event or whatever, we need to be in position to do that. I think our community groups, like your sororities, fraternities, churches, and organizations, need to sit down and just put a plan. Let's get these leaders that are these organizations, and like you said, embarrass the cities. We'll get the media. The media will follow. It's a matter of what we want to put together so that they can see what we want them to see. So I challenge us from a standpoint of what can we do differently. I heard what Brother Ken was talking about in reference to swimming. Well, guess what? I just got involved. I've been asked to sit on the board for equine assisted therapy. I know nothing about a horse, okay? But I understand the value of what a horse can do for mental PSDT. And everybody's big on this mental health thing. Yeah. Well, guess what? Mental health, I don't even want to go there. That's another story. People are making money on mental health, and that's their business. But let's get to the root of the cause of mental health. Okay, everybody knew Crazy Bob or Uncle Tom, who was crazy. Everybody had that in our family. We now just coming out to that? I ain't buying it, okay? So let's sit down and like you said, we want to have solutions. I think we're in the right direction. I was hearing one of the young ladies was talking with us, maybe trying to do this once a month. I challenge that. Let's try once a quarter to get started slowly, and build up that momentum. Because if we try to do it once a month, there's too much information. We need to be able to, shall we say, woosah, get that and absorb it, and then think about what we want to do next. And I think you have some powerful women even in the audience that can help us understand what it is that you need us to do to help you to become better at what you want to do. But swimming, I play chess, I do checkers. I'm not doing what, quote unquote, most of the average black guys do. Okay, I can play spades, I can play bid whist, I can play dominoes, I can do all that, but I stepped out to do more because guess what? There's money. Do you know if you get into the boating industry, the marine industry, there is a boatload of money, no pun intended, that you can make in there. I mean, there's folks making $100,000 and they just cleaning a boat. Okay, why are we not taking advantage of it? I look at the people that are doing it, it don't look like us. Okay, so what are we missing? Yeah, okay, I'm afraid of water because I don't know how to swim. Learn how to swim. Okay, it can help you, help your kids, help your family. But then I can take you to the next level because now you can look at, oh, what jobs are available? What else can I do? So that's the kind of narrative we need to do to solve the problem, because I think if we have more money in our community, we have less opportunities to get into other things, because now we have more things that we can do because we have more money.
Thank you.
I have a thing that I call SAP, S-A-P, and the scheduling, accountability, and prioritizing. And also when you look at the word SAP, that's the lifeblood of a tree. It carries that lifeblood to the buds to make it operate. And that's also the same thing that happens in any organization. You have to have those things. And I'm also in agreement with whatever everyone has said. And we have to reach the young generation. I had an opportunity when I back in the 70s when I came out of the military and was in college. I had a part-time job at a youth facility, and I would go there at night and work until the next morning. And I had about 35 boys. The average one was bigger than me, that I had to look over all night. And they told me that the guy, when he hired me, they said that the guy that was there with them, the boys ran him off. And so it was challenging. And so when I got there that night, they all were in bed sleeping. They told me what the rules were. That they would get them up at a certain time in the morning, and nobody was to use the phone. They were supposed to stay asleep all night. And they said the guys were going to test you. And I guess it might have been about 3 o'clock in the morning. I heard some noise, and it was about 4 boys about larger than me had flipped the bed over and said, "We going downstairs." And the rest of them was about 30-some boys was following them, and I had my chair by the door. And they said, "We going downstairs." And I looked at them, and I was shaking in my boots. But I looked at them and I said, "I can't whoop all of you, but I'm gonna grab the first one. And who gonna be first?" And they looked at me and they went and sat down. And what it was is that I gained respect for them boys from them, and I respect them. And one of the things that how we're going to reach the young people, we're going to have to do it through love and respect. Because it's a lot of things that they don't understand. We talk about them with the pants down. That came from jail. I had to take belts away from them because, see, the guys go in there, they think they're hard. But I had to take a belt away from them to keep them from hanging themselves. That's where the shaggy pants came from. I had to take shoelaces away from them to keep them from hanging themselves, because if they didn't follow the rules, there was a place in the back that we had to take them, and it was terrible. And guys would cut their wrists, and they would be tough on the street. They would cut their wrists just so they could go to the hospital. And when you tell them about that, because you'll find them on the streets and they're saying, I'm free, I'm my own man, and you're walking around with your underwear showing. When we came up in the 70s, that showed you had some sugar in your tank. That didn't mean you were a man. And so but you have to tell them this through love, and they have to gain respect, and you respect them. And letting them know that I'm telling you where this comes from, because when a rapper get up there and they see the rapper dressed like that, that's not what you're about. But we have to share that in love and showing respect for them in the same way. Now, and I want to say this also. In the book of Jeremiah, I'm not going to preach. But in the book of Jeremiah, in the 29th chapter, I believe, and the 11th verse, and I think a lot of us are very familiar with that. And it said that God has a plan for your life, plan of good and not evil. And a lot of times we quote that, and that is true. He has a plan, but if you go a couple of scriptures above that, it also explains to us. Because you're talking about God has a plan of good and not evil, to give you a hope in the future. But if you go up above that, you'll find that God explains how to work the plan. Because you got to have a plan and you have to work the plan. And what he said, because the children, Jeremiah wrote this letter to the children who are enslaved in Babylon. And God says, for you, while you are there, he says to have your sons to get wives, your daughters to get husbands, and he says, work the land. He says, because while you're there, I want you to increase and not decrease. And then he says, to get involved with the city and make this land prosperous, so because when it's prosperous, when it's blessed, you are blessed. So in other words, what God was saying, you are enslaved here, but get involved in what's happening, because when you bless this, you're going to be blessed. And that's what we're talking about here today, is get involved. And I heard someone say, don't do it too big, because that's what happens a lot of times. We try to start too big. We try to start at the top. But the Bible teaches us, don't be afraid of small beginnings. So we start with what we can handle and be consistent with that. Don't try to start at the top. Start with what we can handle and get involved in every area. And while we are blessing our neighborhood, because what happens? I know somebody may say, well, we can't save everybody, but you can save one. And you start with that one. Start with that one. And as you bless because you're blessing the neighborhood. If you can get one kid to change their mind, it's going to bless the whole neighborhood. You may not see it at that time, but I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be finished. I've done a lot of things, and I had a lot of jobs, and I think that the jobs is what helped me in ministry, got me prepared for ministry. I drove a school bus, and I've had children come back and join the church after they became grown, because they remembered the things that I did for them on the bus. Because when I prayed for my kids, you know, they were saying don't can't have prayer in school, but I prayed for my kids. And a principal came out one day and said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep on doing it. You got the best bus here. And so when you help that one child, it pays off. It pays off. So we could start small and just get it done, get involved in every area, and saving one. As the city, as it was talked about, as the city prospers, you will prosper. It is your increase and don't decrease.